Thank you for joining this the expert section today. I'm Hawk. Welcome to join. Today's our topics, there are two main topics. One is to introduce how to customize DK themes, and I will give you some overview and show you how to step by step to customize based on our default themes, use our theme template. And second idea is how to integrate a Tailwind CSS with ZK. So I will also give you some short overview. Surely you can read the Tailwind CSS documents. I won't give you a full overview because it's also a big framework. So I will mainly focus on how to use Tailwind CSS in ZK. Okay, let's start. First, let's give you a quick overview about our official themes, because all of you might use different ZK versions, so we can give you a roughly idea about how ZK theme change from from 6.5 to 7, 8. You can see the default theme is Breeze, and we also provide other traditional themes like Sapphire, Silvertail, or Atlantic. But starting from 8.5, we changed the default theme from Breeze to Ice Blue, and the others are optional. You can download its jars and use it, applied it with the old theme. But Ice Blue has a bigger padding or margin and font size comparing to the old theme. So later in 8.6, we also released the Ice Blue Compact and also the theme pack compact. The theme pack contains other 23 extra themes, and it also have other different color combinations. But it's a extra pack you need to purchase. But in 8.6, because we want some old user can easily upgrade from old themes, so we provide also a free theme called Ice Blue Compact. It has a similar padding, smaller font size and margin, quite similar to old Breeze themes. So if you using Breeze or these old themes, it's easier to upgrade to Ice Blue Compact. It might not, or usually doesn't break your layout. But if you upgrade to Ice Blue or anything in theme pack, that might break your layout because there's a bigger padding and font size. But in ZK10s, we still provide Ice Blue as a default theme, but you can see there's no Sapphire, Silvertail, Atlantic. Those traditional old themes we no longer support, but you can still use Breeze in ZK10.0. It's just compatible. We just don't change any code, but you can still use Breeze in ZK10 to let you test how does it work in ZK10. But in the future, we won't maintain Breeze, but but now when using ZK10, you still can apply Breeze for just testing features and without breaking your layout. But when we advance to the next ZK, for example, ZK 10.01 or ZK 10.1, the future release of ZK 10, we won't never change or maintain the Breeze themes. So we keep the compatibility for using Breeze theme with ZK 10 to just let you test the function. So you don't need to worry about breaking the layout. You can test ZK10, but to avoid confusing you, we don't maintain in the future. So this is how these themes change. You can see. And so next, you can see our theme pack here. This is a theme pack. The first one is the default theme, is Ice Blue, and other themes all based on the same font size and padding and margin. The mainly different just the code, the color code its difference. So it has its own name. When you apply theme, you need to specify the theme name. So there are light. There are 3 series. One is light. One is dark. The dark theme is based on its base background is dark, and the light theme is white. And there are accessibility themes, only 3, and these color are high contrast. So if you are concerned or if you want to use a theme that conform the WCAG, you can use these 3 themes. Or there are also a mix and match. It's just combination mix between the light and dark. So you can see this color is more colorful, and it's mixing between the dark and light. So this is what you can see. This is what the theme pack contain. But by default, you can what is available to you is free is Ice Blue or Ice Blue Compact. You can switch here to see this is Ice Blue Compact. So you can see its font size is small, padding margin is smaller. So it looks similar to those old things like Breeze. You can see it's quite similar. So when you upgrade from Breeze to Ice Blue Compact or any compact themes, yeah, so it might not break your layout. So the theme pack have every theme like Puppy the theme pack, the theme in the theme pack has its corresponding compact theme. So you can choose to use Puppy or Puppy Compact, etc. So that's the overview of the theme. You can check with the theme pack demo here, or you can go to our website and choose the product theme pack. Okay, the next one, the theme template. The theme template is actually a GitHub page. No, sorry, not a GitHub, a GitHub repository. So you can search in our organization zcause, search for ZK theme template, and you can find there's a repository here. And this repository, actually, all our theme and also the theme pack is based on this template, and you can fork it and create your own theme. That's just the solution, and that's the way we suggest, because that's easier to maintain and upgrade. Because if you fork the themes, fork the repository, in the future, when we change some CSS, or maybe for bugs or for features or something new added, you can easily to merge with the Git. You don't need to manually compare by yourself to see, okay, what's the difference? You can just merge the file, the change by using the Git. So it's easier to upgrade, no need to manually check. So in here, you can see we write a very detailed documentation. So you can just follow these steps and build your own thing. So this almost write everything. So here today I will quickly show you the steps. I can do it for, just tell you how to do it, just run it. So first you can see first you fork this repository to your local, and I import it to my IDE. The step is you need to check your Node.js. It must be over 10, something like this. So my Node.js is 21, so it's okay. So fork the repository, and the first step you need to create a theme, use a theme name. So you need to run this initialize script to create your custom theme. For example, here. So when you run this script, you need to provide group ID, maybe support, and maybe artifact. You can usually will use the theme name. Okay, maybe my theme is pretty, and I version 1.0. So I display name, so-called pretty themes. Okay, so it's correct. So then it will replace. You can see this theme name, it's not a real name because it's just a placeholder, the special string that will be replaced during the initialization. So it's underline theme name. That's because it's when you fork, initially this will be this kind of name, but after you run this script, and it will be renamed to the name you specify. So now it becomes pretty. So you can see it's everything here it becomes pretty. So you don't have to rename by yourself. The script will rename for you. Okay, so that's already reload. Then this is the first step. And then you need to install the zk-less engine. It's an engine that will convert the less file into zk DSP. So it's also required. It's a less processor. But basically, we use the less processor. But this is a wrapper of it. We also do some. There are some special zk things we have to do. So you cannot use the original less processing. You need to use zk-less engines. So just run this to install. That since I already installed, I will skip these steps. And if you want to use in your project, you need to build a sim jar. So you can run the Maven to package it as a sim jar. Okay, so usually when you run it, you can see here, it will become for example, pretty 1.1.0 jar, something like this. So you just put this jar into your project's class path and specify the sim name you applied it. And okay, so how to customize themes during the processing? We usually will use a themes as a base theme. For example, now we can use here it contains the default theme, which is ice blue. Okay, so you can use the ice blue theme. And when you want to customize a theme, we suggest you not to directly modify the variable. So for example, here is the variables of the whole theme. So you can see, let's make it larger. For example, this is the primary color here, and this primary dark color here. So the first idea is you just rename to the color you want, but this is not what we suggest. We suggest is you can create a new file. Sorry, for example, like this here. You can create a new file and include it. So for example, here variables. Let's check what's the new file I create here. Less. Okay. Oh, sorry, it's here. I would suggest you create a new file, for example, called maybe my theme of pretty. No, not this one. Pretty. Okay. And here you can see it includes the zk variable .s. So we import our pretty at the bottom of this page to override this zk variable .des. Okay, why we do so? Because if you directly change this value here, and in the future this file will be modified, and it's not easy to identify. For example, if in the future we we change something, because when version upgrades, we also might change this file. We also might change the any file, any last file here. So it might be not easy to identify what is your change or what is our change, a ZK change. So if you separate what your custom value here in the new file, so it's easy to identify. So you can keep this, for example, keep the default, the original variable less unchanged. Then when you upgrade, you can directly merge the change of ZK. So if in the future there is one variable add or some variable value change, then you can easily upgrade by merging the change. Then your custom part will be easy to identify. Okay, these, because you usually don't change every or all the variables, so you can easily identify. Say, okay, this is your custom part, and this is the original part. So if you want to override the, for example, the color primary, you just copy the color primary variable here and put it here and change your color here. And when import your custom last, you just import it at the last. So you will override the previous one. So here, that will be a better way to override it in the long term. So that's the way we suggest. And in this file, and there's also a file. So if you want to use compact uh, compact themes, then you need to specify compact. It's here, I think it's here. If you don't need compact, just leave it as default. So if you want compact, change this value as compact. Okay, and so so this is what I suggest. Add new less. We suggest you add new less instead of the modifying the old variables. So here you can create a new less file called pretty or my themes and add it, import in the end of the header des. Okay. And during the development, changing the less file, you might want to preview what's the final results. So we also provide, there's a preview application. Just run it here. And actually, this is just a very simple ZK application. It's inside this preview folder. So you can see here, there's a preview rule. So that's see localhost. So this is preview result. Oh, okay. It seems that I already changed the color. So let's see how can I. Yeah. So this is the preview of the result. So you can, if you want to preview some specific components, for example, here, so you can change the rule here, preview rule. I think here. So I can add a button. Oh, I need to restart. Yeah, because it's actually a Sprint application, a Spring Boot application. So when I change, I need to restart it. And but this is a bit little inconvenient, because every time when you change something, you need to restart server, reload. It takes a while. So we also create some kind of live reload mechanism. So in here, you can run this command. So you will continuously watching what you change. So here, now that's reloaded. And currently, I already include my pretty less. So maybe I can change the file, and you can see the color change because it's let's resize it like this. Because this process will keep monitoring the file, the last file. So every time when you change the file and save, then it will file there's something changed, it will compile the last to DSP, so the color will change. So you can directly quickly see what's changed in here. So you don't need to restart the server. So yeah, that's you can run this for you to quickly preview what you change to see what happens, and you can see the results here. So you don't need to reload every time. I think it's useful for you. So this is a continuous compile watch list file. You can run this process. Okay. So after that, if you done everything, everything's ready and you found, okay, this is the color you want, this is the font size, the padding you want, and then you can run the package, run Maven package to build a jars, and then put the jars into your web application class path. Then you need to specify this preferred themes, and with the name you specified previously. My theme is pretty, so you just specify pretty here. Okay, so this is not almost the whole processing, and here we also mentioned some use case, for example, because there are many variables, and maybe you don't not very clear about which variables means which thing sometimes, but basically you can just try, yeah, because some are very clear, like this is about the mesh is about grid and this box, and the container is usually like window panel or something, so it's message box related, so you can try, but we just tell you some basic things like if you want to usually maybe you want to change the primary color, so just change these variables or others like font size or title. Someone said, oh, if someone if you want to build maybe two themes that are differently. Currently, this template cannot build two themes. If this two theme with two different values, for example, you want a, a default theme and a compact theme. So the easy thing is you create two branch. One branch is default theme, one branch is compact themes, or maybe one branch is yellow, one branch is blue. So I think it's easy to do it by Git. So you can fork the repository to your repository first, then you create two branch, one branch for yellow, one branch for blue, because there are conflict. Currently we cannot support to build two themes with two different sets of variables. So just, I think you can create a second branch for it and just switch the branch, build the first one, maybe yellow one theme first and switch to blue one. Okay. Okay, so this is I think the whole process is not so hard. Yeah, you can just follow the README step by step to create it. Okay, next one, let's talk about the Tailwind CSS. I give you some very quickly introduction because this framework, yeah, you can for detail you can read its document. And the Tailwind CSS you can search for internet. This is their official website, and its main strength is about promote this kind of idea called a utility-first CSS framework. So it actually is a CSS framework, but why it called framework? Because it provides a process to let you writing CSS in a different way. It provides many, I don't know how much, maybe hundreds predefined utility class like this. So we can see its animation on this website. So you can see, for example, in previous traditional way, usually we will specify maybe inline CSS or use a CSS file, but now he promote a different idea. For example, you can use this, and these all are predefined class that just Tailwind CSS define. Like this is width, this is height, and this is padding top 6, and the 1, 2, 3, 4. The number of it is not a real unit. Usually it's could like option 1, option 2, or level 1 or level 2. So it's maybe padding top level 1, padding top level 2, and each level has its own value. Maybe it's 5 pixel, 10 pixel, 50. So it could be customized, but it has its own value, its default value. So like you want center line text, so you can use this. If you want some rounded, no rounded, you can use this. So it predefines lots of CSS class you can use immediately, but it's not so low level as inline CSS rules, but it's a little bit higher. That's what he call utility CSS class. So each CSS you can reuse. You can reuse it easily. So you can reuse this width, height in different place. But why? So you want to promote this kind of utility first. I'll just give you a quick idea of what I understand. The first main reason is he want to decouple CSS and HTML structures, and he want to reuse the CSS class instead of every time he need to write specific CSS rules for each block or each element in his page. He give as an example. So first, at the beginning, he called semantic CSS. What is the semantic CSS? It's semantic to the DOM structure. For example, if you create a kind of author biography elements, maybe there's an image and there's a div with the name of the person and the description of the person. So this is it has its HTML structure. It's an image inside a div. And when we want to decorate it with CSS, we will usually, in a traditional way, we usually write CSS for the block. For example, we create a CSS file, and then there's a class called author biologic. And why we name this name the CSS class like this is because we named it by its purpose or by the context it calls semantic. So it's because this div is used to be author biographic. So we name it with author. We don't name it like anything like div. We don't name it like area, those kind of common name. We name it with a meaningful name. And under this, we will write some rules and we'll say, okay, under this block, there's an image, there's a div, there's a h2p, we will write corresponding rules inside it. But this problem is this CSS rule is highly coupled with the HTML structure. So during the development, maybe you will change something here. Maybe you don't want to put image here, you want to change layout, or maybe you want to put it down, or maybe you don't want to use P, you want to use something else. Then you can imagine that these CSS will also be modified, needs to be modified accordingly, because this selector, the CSS is highly coupling with the HTML structure. So you have to always need to modify again and again. So this is just one block. And you can imagine that in your page, there are maybe hundreds of pages, and every page has many blocks, and each blocks there's a minor change. It might affect your CSS. So he thinks this is a better idea when doing like this, when writing CSS like this. So that's his idea. Then he come out to this utility first CSS. So he tried to create so many CSS classes that can be used, because it's, for example, like this kind of CSS, like H24 or W24, it's not related to these contexts, not related to this HTML structure. Or you can see the font median, it means the font size median. So just a class that just similar like inline CSS, but it's not so low level. So that's its basic idea. Uh, okay, so this kind of utility CS is a great complement to ZK because it offers many utility class that can be easily used with ZK components, just adding on it, and that's done. So it's very easy. So it can also simplify the customizing, the customizing the appearance. So I will show you some simple examples to using Tailwind CSS in ZK. So if you check this document, you will find there are lots of class, almost every aspect, like sizing, display, uh, even the flags or padding, width, even min width, max width. But it's you, and maybe in your idea, you will think, okay, this is quite similar to like just writing inline CSS rule, but it's not, because in writing inline CSS or writing CSS rule, you can write anything. The font size could be 10 pixel, 12 pixel, 24 pixel, anything you can specify. So if there are 2 developers or 3 developers, that everyone could write different values. So it becomes a mess. But when using this utility first, at least it provides a limit option here. So you can see it provides several from XS to 9XL. They only provide these options to let you choose. So you can just choose one of it. You don't have an infinite options. You just have limit options, so you can control that everything is in a limit way and in a unified way. So like a font size, everything a width or every alignment will be in a limited options. So you can see. Oh, let's see some example. For example, let me show you the project. Oh, okay. So if you want to see the source code, there's a source code in the GitHub. For example, here I put all my source code here in Tailwind CSS to see the course demo. And okay, let me run the project to when. So it's very easy to use it. Let's see some first simple example. The first example is just a loading spinner. You can create a customized loading spinner by yourself uh, by using just his CSS. So you can see I click here and it show a loading animation. And the code is quite simple. You can see here loading animation. This is just a normal ZK button. And I fire, this is loading animations. So I just make it visible, true or false, to show it on the screen. And you can see this div, just a normal div, and you can create some kind of animation. Uh, I I think it's a good complement of the case because it has many animation and transition related CSS, and you don't need to create by yourself. So just applied animation CSS like animation spin, and it just work. You don't need to write CSS rule by yourself. So you can check it's his document here. And the animation is what a DK doesn't provide. I think we provide very few animation effect. So I think you can use this. There are many animation and transition, and it's very easy to use. I think you don't. I think you never want a real animation like two people. You just want some effect. Enterprise web application, you just need some effect. So you can easily by combine these CSS to create some animations. So because it's just CSS, you can see you just specify it as S class or CSS like here, fix, inset, flex, item, justified, and the white background, opacity, and animation spin round. So because it's just CSS class, so it doesn't matter that when you use ZK9 or 10, because no matter ZK9 or 10, it allow you to add CSS on a div or a button. So there's almost no version issue because it's just a CSS class, you can add it. So in this case, it's even simpler because I just add it and never change it. So I just change the visibility. Here you can see when I click, I just make this effect it's visible to true. And I fire echo event, and you will do something. This sleep is just simulate a long time operation. And then after the operation ends, I just make this effect invisible. So this is just a kind of a div that invisible. So you can extract this as a reusable part and inject in everywhere. Oh, okay, so this is the first example, and second example is also very similar, but it's just like something like drawer. You can see a sliding effect on the right hand side. Is slide in and close the slide out, and you don't need to write any CSS rule, just adding or removing CSS. So how to do it? For example, it's a button here. So it's a toggle panel, and this is the panel, sliding panel. You use the VLAL buttons, labels, just all ZK components. But the problem, the key is here. You can see there's a transform transition here. Okay, so the toggle panel, what the toggle panel do is to add or remove a CSS class. For example, they can provide an API called remove as class and add as class. So by toggling is just, it already has X and I just remove it and add translate X. And if it doesn't have X I just remove this one and add this one. So just toggling, but switching to CSS class, then it creates such kind of animation. It could be X or X0. So it doesn't need to know write CSS rules. You don't need to know that. Just very simple. Adding CSS class and removing CSS class. That's all. But also ZK has a drawer component. Yeah, here. And we have more Java API control. But if you don't like the style or if you want to create something custom, you can use this CSS to build your own drawer, something like drawer. Okay, so it's quite easy. You can check the code. And the next one is about some animations. But because ZK has its own class, so sometimes it doesn't work for example, the hover effect, the text is not yellow. But in my case, the first hover effect is also easy to edit. For example, just use this hover background blue 500, and its original initial background is BG's background. Background blue 300 and 500 is more darker. You can see darker here. So when I hover it, it becomes darker. But I also specify text yellow 100 here, but it actually doesn't show the text in yellow. And why? So we can check here. If you open a developer tool and inspect this button, you can see this scroll down here. Make it larger. So this is no, okay. Where is the button? Oh, here. Okay, so here's the button. Actually, uh, turns the I use anchor to be a button, but because the anchor it has its own colors, its own text. This oh yeah, its color is blue. Yeah. Oh yeah, here is a blue. So you can see it's override by this. And where is the text yellow? The text yellow 100 is here. So you can see here. And this is not because I just add the S class on the button, on the anchor, but this priority is not so high. It cannot override the ZK's building CSS rule because ZK has more priority. So in this case, not uh, it might not work. So either you could use HTML tag on your own, or you need to remove the ZK CSS class by here. For example, hover on me, you can see here it's actually the same, and its text is yellow. So what's the difference? You can see I use the two anchor the same. It's the same ZK component, but the second one it has the yellow text. That's because I specified the Z class here, or you that means I will remove the ZK's building CSS, or you can just use another name. So if you check this DOM structure, you can see comparing to the previous one, here you can see there is a ZK class called Z-A. This is ZK default CSS class. So this class, it contains the rule of like this color blue or font family. So it's higher priority. So if you remove this ZA by adding by removing this Z-A, then you can see there's no Z-A, so the text yellow 100 will be rendered. It has a highest priority. So you can see here, it's yellow on the text. So in some case, it doesn't work. So you can debug with inspector. So I think, yeah, for some complicated component and maybe grid these bugs, I can imagine that maybe some case doesn't always work. Then you have to fall back to use CSS rules, inline rule, anything. But yeah, for some simple case like div, I think in most cases it will work. Okay, and another example is using the fade in and fade out. So if you want fade in effect like this model, you can see it gradually fade in. Uh, see again, gradually fade in. Okay, and how to do it? Just adding a CSS. So for example, here, this is button to click to make the window fade in. So to fade in, I need to, you can see the beginning is opacity is 0, and duration is 1 second, and easy in and out. So when I click it, I add a class, as class called opacity 100. So I make it not transparent, and its duration is 100. So it take 100 to become fade in. Okay. And after close, I didn't really remove it, I just make it invisible and remove the opacity again, opacity 100 again. And so every time when I click the button, it will has a fade in effect. So it is a fade in model window. So just by removing and adding the CSS class, it's quite, I think it's quite simple for most of us. And another one is a bouncing button is it's quite simple. You can see the button is quite is bouncing, and so you will draw user attention. Say, please click this one. Yeah. So this is very easy to create. Just adding this kind of thing called animate bounce, and that's all. Okay. And another easy to use is this kind of, it's called margin horizontal. X means the X axis, so level 1. So it can easily create some space between components. So the margin MX1 will create, you can see create margin and horizontally in the button. So it will have some space between the two buttons. The bouncing is quite simple, just add it. And another one is pulse. The pulse effect is also very easy to use. It's also its purpose is also to grab user attention. You can see its colors become like a heartbeat, become darker and lighter periodically. So it's very easy to use. Just the pulses use a kind of called anime pulse, and that's all. So yeah, just create a div and add this anime pulse and give you some kind of background like red 500, text white, and the padding 4, round. So it become round. So this is like this. So you can, for example, in ZK, you can change its visibility, make it, if you want to give some notice, just make it visible and hide it and make it invisible. And the collapse and expand, it's also easy to create without just using CSS, just using a div. So you can see you can collapse, expand it, and doesn't need to write any JavaScript, just adding CSS class and removing CSS class. So how to do it is just like calling toggle collapse and just set height 0 or 100%. So you can see here in the div, it says height 300. And this is the area to collapse and expand. So I just add the transition height, means the height will transition within 500 milliseconds. So using easy in and out. So at beginning, its height is 0. And then when I toggle, I just set its height between 0 and 100%. So it will just expand it or collapse by changing the height. And the animation is done by this transition height. So I don't need to write anything, but it's very easy to use. And we can even make this transition and not triggered by hover and not by a button click. So you can see transition here, and I can specify hover height 40. And by default, it's height 0. And when hover, it becomes height 40. So in our page, the second one, when I hover it, it will become height 40. So it will do something like expand. When I move out my mouse, then it will close. So it's easy to create just CSS. No need to write any program, just hover and show and close. So it's easy to use. And the popping just click. So we can see it's a popping effect. It's very suitable to create some kind of alert. It's a popping alert. And the popping also like just using a div with some CSS. So you can see here, I create alert box and using scale 0 and scale 100. And it's duration 500. And transition transform. Use transform, transition transform, and change the scale because the original, at the beginning, the scale is 0, and then I change to scale 100. So if you can make it even slower, like make it, oh, sorry, because I didn't start the monitoring process. I will mention later. So using this CSS scale, you can change the CSS flag by change the 500 to 1000 and make the animation slower. So this is another case. So the last one is just showing a kind of notification, kind of ping animation. So this is usually will be used on some kind of message notification. Maybe there's a message here, so you show this kind of ping animation. So this is just done by the CSS class. For example, here's the button, and you just create some animation pings, and all the others just specified just to combine it become a orange dot, background 400, rounded, and this is about position. So this is the outer animation effect, and this is the central circle with the original orange background circle. Okay, so this is the several example you can use. But when using Tailwind CSS, that needs some setup. So I will show you some setup, but it's quite basic. You can just follow their document, or here I just tell you some very basic steps. First, you just need to install Tailwind CSS by using npm install init, and then he required to config to put this config. I just copy the default config, but the special thing is here you need to specify the rule here, because you will try to monitor the rule file. And when you use CSS class on it, you will automatically generate the required CSS, because it provide maybe, I don't know how many, but maybe thousands of CSS class. So it's impossible every time you just import the whole or the complete CSS. So in a different way, he just try to create a thread. So when you want to develop with Tailwind CSS, you need to run this command. So for example, that we need to run this command in terminals. For example, here. So when run this command, it will start monitoring the source here. These paths input CSS. So you can see I put an input CSS here, and input CSS you have to put this. This is basic default one. You have to put this. You use Tailwind base component utilities, and then it will dynamically generated output CSS based on the CSS you use. So this is generated, not I manually specified. So you can see this all contains these CSS I use in Zuo, not all the class that Tailwind CSS provide. Okay, so when I try to change this, for example, maybe I try to remove which one? Text yellow 100. And you can see it rebuilding because maybe he felt text yellow. Maybe I think text red 100. I guess there's a red. Okay, and let's reload our page. For example, the page here. Okay, you can see the text become red. And if you check the output CSS here, let's check output CSS. Where is my source true? Tailwind. You can see here, it automatically generated text red 100 into your output CSS. So when developing with Tailwind CSS, there's some setup steps you need to do. You need to run a monitoring thread and then using Zool. So every time when you write something new class or remove some class, it will generate the output CSS based on your the class you use. So in every page, I need to include, for example, you can see every page I need to include the output CSS and where did I include it? Hmm? I saw I included, oh, here. Yeah, I included and was embedded. So every page I include output CSS and this output CSS will be dynamically generated when I change in or modify this rule. Okay, so this is the how you can use in Tailwind CSS. Okay, so this is I think there are more utilities you can use to just check their document. So for some cases, maybe don't work. You need to debug with browser inspector, and either if it really cannot work by just applying CSS, maybe you can consider to remove CK, the class, or maybe you need to use inline style. That's the fallback solution. Uh, okay. And let's see some questions you ask. That's what's that? Okay. So Tailwind CSS can be used on ZK9, right? Yeah, because it's just using CSS class, not special, no difference between ZK9 and 10. Version of themes. How could I make sure get the latest theme version? Uh, okay. Version of themes. When you use the DK theme template here, there is a version tag here. So you can fork based on these tags. It depends on which version you use. And if you are old version, then that's better than you, for example, if you fork since 963, but we have 964 and 965, then you need to, it's better you merge. If you found something wrong and if you something look wrong, it's better you merge your repository to those following change. That's why we suggest you to not to modify the file directly, just create a new file and put your customized variables in the new file and keep the original or the default ZK file unchanged, so you can easily merge it. Yeah, and possible effect or source. Yeah, Robert provides some documents. Yeah, you can if there's a catch. So if you found something wrong, it could be or if you are sure that you already changed the new themes or build a new theme, but the CSS doesn't change, maybe there's a catch for it. And we have a library property you can specify to break the catch. I would say, okay. Okay, so that's probably all the things I plan to introduce today. So is there any other question I don't answer, or if you have new question? Yes, okay. Okay. If there's no question, then maybe we end this today. And keep focus or keep noticing if there's what's the next training topic. Oh, someone asked, so breeze theme is deprecate? Right, yeah, breeze themes deprecate since decay 10. So you can, but you can still use the breeze in decay 10, but we just keep it just for compatibility, just let you test DK10 without breaking the layout. So actually, we don't maintain breeze anymore since after DK10. So there will not be breeze for DK 10.1 or 10.01. We just um, build the breeze for 10, just let you test ZK10 if you're using breeze. Because if we don't provide breeze for ZK10, then you have to upgrade to a different theme, then everything will look broken and in a mess, then you cannot actually test what's the features in ZK10. So you still can use breeze with ZK10.0.0 to test your application with ZK10, but in the next version, we don't maintain Breeze. We don't release the newer version of Breeze, so it might have a problem in the future. So if you want to upgrade, I will suggest you upgrade Breeze to Ice Blue Compact, because the Ice Blue Compact has a similar margin and padding like a Breeze, and also the color is quite similar. So theme pack, where is this again? So if you check here, if I make it to compact, you can see this is the ice blue compact theme. And you switch to breeze, you can see it's quite similar. So if you really like this color, you can just build your custom themes based on ice blue. And for example, you just change the primary color to the breeze color. Yeah, but if you are not insist the same color as breeze, you can just switch to ice blue compact, and you can see it looks quite similar because it has similar fonts and paddings. So without Zool files, could we still use Tailwind? How would you compile output CSS? Oh, if you use less stateless components, I think it's the same because it's just adding a CSS on it. So adding or removing. So just because you build status with the different API, but it also have API to let you add CSS and remove CSS. So I think it still work with status components. So you still can use Tailwind with status components. But compile output CSS is the same because it's not rely on ZK, it's rely on Tailwind CSS, the NPM, the Node.js program. So if you already installed Node.js, Node packages here, then you run this. This is Tailwind CSS provide, not ZK program. So you just install this, and oh, because there's no rule to monitor, right? So I will think about it because but in Slate's component, we actually has a way to use rule, which it still has a way. It's in one of our document. Let me find it. There's still a way to use rule in status. But let me see. Do we have a rule? Yeah, building UI with a rule. So you can use here to still write a rule here. And but when you create components, you need to use this kind of API. Yeah. So you still can write rule there. So I hope this will answer your questions. And you can wire user action here like this. So when using status components, there are also two ways. One is use the Fluent API like this. I button off with as class something And the second way is to use some traditional rule way. You create rule first, and you specify this rule to this API, and you will create status a component for you. Okay, so I hope this solve your problem. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you everyone's joining, and please stay tuned to our public training as expert series. Thank you everyone. Let's end this session for now. See you next time.